It's another Manly Monday, and I'm going to try something here because I have noticed a pattern with Manly Monday that people who are not traditionally masculine tend to love Manly Monday. People who clearly consume a lot of manosphere content get triggered by Manly Monday. And I'm good with that. I think that means I'm on the right track, because if you like manosphere content, if you like that form of masculinity, if you like that messaging, there is plenty of that out there. Manly Mondays is designed to give an alternative to things like Pop Culture Addict, which is masculinity for people who don't fit in those manosphere boxes that isn't bullshit. Okay, so if you like manosphere content, right, Cthulhu? Watch manosphere content. That's what it's there for. This is for other people. Don't be an asshole. If you like this content, help support this channel. Become a monthly patron, patreon.com/LeannaK, or buy a one-time Leanna Care session for someone who can use it but can't afford it, coffee.com/LeannaK. Now, being an asshole, that's what this video is about, and it's how Batman makes you an asshole. This is something I really struggle. You can tell, guys, you can tell I love my DC comics. I love my Marvel comics too. Wrong way, Captain America Shield. But, I got a Batman Beyond that there back there. You can tell I'm a pretty hardcore like Batman family fan. I loved the No Man's Land arc in comics, but after that, I started falling away from Batman. And I think it's part because the stories got more and more reductive. But I also got older and realized that emulating Batman, thinking like Batman, was making me accidentally an asshole. And so I started going like Superman, Captain America. I got the Spectre back there. Spectre, highly underrated character. If I could write one DC character, it'd be the fucking Spectre. I love the fucking Spectre. But I started weaning myself off Batman because I realized it was making me an asshole. Why? Because Batman's paranoid. Oh, but he's this, he's that. No. Batman, fundamentals of Batman. He's the world's greatest detective, not the world's greatest paranoid recluse. And I'm hoping that the Robert Pattinson Batman films are starting him as the world's greatest paranoid recluse. And I hope that the fact he's a shitty detective in that movie is the beginning of an arc of how he becomes the world's greatest detective. I'm hoping for that. That's my hope, okay? Not my cope, my hope. Here's the difference between Batman and Superman, okay? Batman spends his entire time trying to outsmart other people, not solving crimes, trying to predict contingencies. He has such a negative view of humanity when written in this particular asshole Batman kind of way. He has such a negative view of humanity that he does things that actually preemptively hurt other people because he's trying to head off what he predicts will happen that is bad. There was an arc in comics where I think it was a reimagined OMAC project that Batman had designed basically as a check against the other members of the Justice League. And that got loose and caused a lot of destruction. And when you create contingency weapons, those weapons tend to get used eventually. Because when the temptation to use a weapon is there, the minute fear creeps in, people use it. Now, compare this to Superman. I love Superman. Oh my God, the finale of Superman and Lois this season. It was starting to lag, that storyline, but the finale was awesome. Okay, it was really good. And here's the thing about Superman. Superman, the reason I love Superman is sometimes willing to be a chump so that he is not an asshole. And this is why I want a good Superman movie. Not that bullshit, grim, dark stuff. A real Superman movie where Superman is a good guy. Not this fucking Superman turns evil Injustice stuff. Injustice is fine. It's an ultimate timeline. Injustice only works when we have a Superman who is not a fucking asshole. Okay? A core to Superman is that he gives people the benefit of the doubt to a fault. And he does this knowing some people will exploit that. Some people will not achieve what he's giving them through benefit of doubt. Some people will morally fail. Superman is strong enough and confident enough, again, to a fault, that his worldview is you give people a chance. When they betray you, you fix it. Batman is stop people from betraying you by never letting anybody in, shoving people away, and generally being an asshole. And unfortunately, that asshole attitude has so infected everything that Superman isn't even allowed to say truth, justice in the American way anymore. That was the one thing I was like, oh, kind of sad, that they actually use the more modern DC Comics Superman slogan, truth, justice, and hope for a better tomorrow. And the reason it made me sad, not because it's like, all right, cool, they want Superman to be for everybody, not just Americans, but the American way, let's be originalist for a moment. The American way, if you read the founding documents of America, it is all based on a more perfect union, which is a hope for a better tomorrow. America is no longer the embodiment of a hope for a better tomorrow because it has been consumed by Batman-style assholedom. And why am I doing this on Manly Monday? Well, because it's directly tied to masculine constructs. Batman is a very different masculine construct than Superman is. It's a different masculine ideal, right? I got a Plastic Man next to the Spectre, next to the Watcher for a reason. All this stuff is placed together for a reason. I don't want people next to each other who might fight. I take this very seriously. But it's also the DC Comics back in the day when they still wrote stories for adults. And that's a reductive generalization. DC is still doing some good stuff in like the digital only comics that have a smaller budget. It's their main things. They want to make money that have so shit the bed. But with Plastic Man, they did an arc where it turned out Plastic Man had a kid. And when he found out, he kind of freaked out and ran away from it. And there was a really good period in DC Comics where they were putting Batman and Plastic Man in scenes together, which worked because they were studies in opposites. And Batman is always best when there is someone to play off of, so he can be all, I am Batman, asshole. And somebody else is, whether it's Plastic Man or Damian Wayne or Superman or Robin, who is a brighter spark, Nightwing legitimately enjoys the acrobatic parts of the job, whereas Batman's always, I hate everything because I'm very serious because I'm so smart. World's greatest asshole detective, right? Damian Wayne was great because he punctured that. They don't use him that way well anymore. But, and obviously we're talking about post-Dark Knight Batman. Batman was very different in the Silver Age. Don't say I didn't say that, people. I said it right now. We're talking post-Dark Knight Frank Miller Batman. I'm the goddamn Batman. And that's the problem. But going back to the Plastic Man story, there was a scene where Batman said he was really disappointed I guess at the moment he was Eel O'Brien, but in Plastic Man, because Batman always thought that Plastic Man would be a really great dad because he was fun and outwardly happy, and you find out that that's a bit of a front. That Plastic Man is he's sort of a clown on the outside but crying on the inside kind of thing. And it was a great moment because it was sort of a character moment for Batman, where it was like, well, if you think that's good, Batman, why don't you do it? Which is good writing. People are not simple. Just because people aspire to be something doesn't mean they have the bravery to actually do it. And both Plastic Man's reaction to that fair criticism from Batman, but also Batman kind of it was a complication for Batman at that moment. And the thing is, what I took underneath it is that Batman was expressing disappointment in Plastic Man for a fear that was crippling both of them emotionally. And that was this fear of being vulnerable, this fear of making a mistake, this fear of being wrong or not strong. And, Batman's the last person in the world who should express disappointment in someone else for running away from emotional connections. And I think that was the point. I think that was good writing, not bad writing, because of the blind spot in the character. Because we had spent years before, that might have been Morrison's run on the Justice League. I'm not sure. I don't remember. I tend not to remember who wrote what, because it all bleeds, which is fine. It's comics, right? But, Frank Miller Batman is defined by shoving people away, by being verbally abusive to Alfred, by just get out whenever he has a feeling, right? And that makes him an asshole. But that's a truth about, certainly there is this Venn diagram, right, between this modern beefcake masculinity embodied by characters like I'm the goddamn Batman and being an asshole. And, Dennis Leary wrote a whole song about it that a lot of people got wrong, right? The song, I'm an asshole, yo, yo, yo. It is a self-aware song about being an asshole. And I remember when it came out, back in the day, a lot of people missed the point, and that's how you could tell they were assholes, because it's lines like, sometimes I park in handicapped spaces while handicapped people make handicapped faces. Maybe I shouldn't be singing this song, ranting and raving and carrying on. Maybe they're right when they tell me I'm wrong. Nah. I mean, the thing Dennis Leary did in his prime was embodied an asshole to deconstruct why so many men feel the need to be an asshole. It was funny because the behaviors he was displaying were very common. Unfortunately, that's a tough balancing act. Like, I love Dennis Leary's coffee-flavored coffee stand-up. An asshole is right sometimes. Sometimes you need an asshole to point out something where everybody else is too nice to say. I have asshole tendencies myself, but that's the difference. I'm aware of those asshole tendencies. I can turn them on and off. It is a tool, not a piece of my identity. And too often, people make things that are tools. People make things that are performances part of their identities. And when someone is saying, I'm an asshole, I don't care, I'm an asshole, well, you do care. You do care very much. And the mark of an asshole is people too afraid to admit they care. And that's unfortunately, I'm the goddamn Batman in a nutshell. And this doesn't mean it's bad to like Batman. Okay. If you like Silver Age Batman, like some of the stuff Neil Adams did and stuff like that, that's awesome. You know, if you like Batman, the animated series, or the Justice League Batman, or Brave and the Bold Batman, those Batmans aren't assholes. You know, even the Robert Pattinson Batman, because it's the beginning, right? Um, I had real issues with one of the scenes in the Batman. I and I'm hoping that, again, it's the beginning of an arc. Spoiler, spoiler, spoiler. I struggle with the idea of the sort of the most intense, the climactic intensity moment of the film, Batman shooting himself full of drugs and almost killing a guy. I hope that was intended to be a mistake. Because if it wasn't, we're back into asshole Batman. There is a difference between recognizing you're afraid of things and validating that, and denying you're afraid of anything. And so your fear actually controls you. And there are so many people that embody that Dennis Leary line. Maybe they're right when they tell me I'm wrong. Nah. You see that aggrievement, right? Guys who and it's not all guys. You got the Marjorie Taylor Greens and Lauren Boeberts of the world, right? These women exist. There are some in Canada as well, but let's face it, most of my audience is American. That's why I use American references. That's the only reason. If I say Candice Bergen, you think, what, the actress? No, there's a politician up here named Candice Bergen. So, you know, it is not exclusively a male thing to be so afraid of being wrong that you'll walk around actually being wrong instead of admitting you're wrong. But it is something sort of tied to this particular I'm the goddamn Batman style masculine ideal, right? At some point that stopped being a flaw in the writing of Batman and started being a defining characteristic, which is really unfortunate because people, when they can't admit their fears, end up embodying the very thing they're afraid that they are. Right? If you are terrified of your anger, you end up all bottled up and you end up exploding, which means to the rest of the world, you are the very thing you're terrified of. You walk around in a state of unhealthy emotion because you're so afraid of being angry. Instead of going, okay, I'm angry. I'm going to admit I'm angry, so I put that anger in the right place. I'm going to admit I'm angry so I can figure out what I'm really angry at so I don't take it out on the wrong people. And there's too many people walking around now who use words like annoyed and irritated because they can't admit even to themselves that they are frightened, angry, or feel violated, right? Because those are weakness, right? No, they're not. No, they're not. And I don't know when it became not okay to be angry. This is when manosphere types complain about the feminization of men, they're on to something with the demonization of anger, but they get the construct wrong. It's not a feminization of men. It's a false stoicism. It's a true logician is never angry. And you know, keep in mind that idea of being completely logical, the false dichotomy is men are logical, women are emotional, right? So the demonization of anger is not a feminization of masculinity. It's a denial that it is a push into a different artificial masculine construct. It's what people think Sherlock Holmes is until you read the fucking books. And if you read the books, Sherlock Holmes actually might be bipolar, might just be somebody who is chronically depressed. He has, there's one case where he actually fakes an episode, like fakes a breakdown so he can sneak in and steal a piece of evidence. But his tendency towards melancholy, as they called it, was so well known he could do that. Sherlock Holmes was not the fake post-war stoicism that a lot of people think of a crime fighter, a problem solver. Sherlock Holmes's method was that he takes a story somebody has told him, he takes the information that they've told him and pictures himself as if he were there. Sherlock Holmes's entire deal is one of empathy, which is why fuck the BBC Sherlock for making him a high-functioning sociopath. Sociopaths struggle with that very form of empathy. It's just wrong. Or they're fan-fictioning not Sherlock. Is if they want to tell a story about a sociopathic detective, go do it, but that's not Sherlock Holmes. You violate one of the defining characteristics of the character, right? So that's the afraid of being wrong part. A true intellectual, it's not that they're never wrong, and this is a big problem with the structure of academia that we deal with. People make their name on a particular theory, and then they defend it when they shouldn't, because if they admit they're wrong, they lose status. That's wrong. Someone makes their name on a theory. They should be rewarded if they then realize they were wrong about everything there, because that's true intellectual pursuit. It is understanding your ego enough to overcome your ego. And being able to admit you're wrong is a big part of that. This is why I'm aware of my asshole tendencies, so I can keep them in check. Because being terrified of being wrong, or being terrified of being seen as being wrong, is connected to a terror that you will appear weak or vulnerable. So a terror of not being strong. And that's why I go back to Superman as another ideal that is worthy. That's a Thor thing, but similar thing, right? I mean, Thor comes at the same idea in a different way. Sometimes you need Batman. Sometimes you need the asshole that happens to be right. But a lot of the time, Superman is the better ideal to follow. I could go on a whole tangent about how monotheism kind of wrecked the idea that you can have different masculine ideals at different times. And because, in Judaism, we have 3 patriarchs and 4 matriarchs. So we have different examples of people who have characteristics that we aspire to. They have flaws as well. But you get into this idea of this one ideal archetype for humanity. The only way to God is through me. We start losing that nuance, right? That doesn't mean we can't get it back. That doesn't mean elements of the Christian framework aren't useful. It's just a problem when you can only be one ideal at any given time. Because Superman is a much better leader than Batman is. Because Superman, unlike Batman, there's this whole escalation theory in Batman comics that basically the existence of Batman is the reason there's all these supervillains running all over the place, because there's something about Batman that encourages supervillainy. I struggle with that concept. I'm not sure I buy it, but it is a major part of Batman comics. Whereas Superman, when Superman's written in a way that's cool, the whole thing behind Superman is that he inspires others to be everyday superheroes. He inspires other people to do what they can to make the world better, that hope for a better tomorrow, right? He inspires people, other people, to embody truth, justice, and hope for a better tomorrow in their own way. And the only way you can do that is to give people benefit of the doubt, to not be so obsessed with preventing people from doing things, from screwing people over, from trying to be a predictive algorithm that prevents suffering instead of healing and actually making the world better. If you suppress, and this is why I think the escalation theory in Batman deserves some consideration, when you're just suppressing everything, when you think you're making the world better by going up and beating people up, well, people don't terribly like getting beat up, so they beat back. And that's why, well, you beat back, well, I beat back, well, I beat you, blah, 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 escalation, right? Whereas Superman, you know, what's the most iconic thing with Superman? They do this in the Wonder Woman movie too, right? It's not him punching somebody. It's him standing there, confident, while bullets are bouncing off, and he's like, that tickles, right? Superman tanks. Superman has the confidence to take, you know, the literal slings and arrows and not necessarily retaliate. Because if Superman punches a guy in the face who's just a regular goon for some criminal, he will kill them, right? He can't just do that. And when you recognize your strengths instead of being terrified of showing weaknesses, you know when you have to pull punches because you are stronger than other people in that field. You'll bowl them over. You will really hurt them. There is a responsibility that comes with strength. And this is one of the things I had to learn. And you guys taught me. This community taught me when I first started doing YouTube. I was so used to being perceived as small, perceived as weak, that I thought I had to fight everything. And one of the bits of feedback, criticisms that I thought was fair, is basically this wasn't how it was said. But the message I got, and it worked, was, look, you have a position of power here. You're the person this community is built around. Show you can take a punch without retaliating. That's what we want from a leader. And that was fair. And that was good. That was good feedback. Yeah, it was critical, but it was right. You know, I wasn't an asshole there. Maybe they're right when they tell me I'm wrong. I didn't go nah. And that's, you know, Superman will admit mistakes and fix them. Batman goes out of his way to prevent mistakes, and then it's sort of, well, no, it wasn't me, it was this. Oh, no, smartly, you know, the OMAC thing. It all got out, and everybody had to clean up his fucking mess because it was bigger than one person. Because he was so interested in the arms race to prevent something that he doesn't focus enough on inspiring better. And so, again, this doesn't mean you can't like Batman. This doesn't mean Batman isn't cool in a lot of ways. But just make sure you understand what is a strength and what is a weakness in Batman, so you don't accidentally act like an asshole by being the goddamn Batman. Look at some other characters, different ideals of masculinity, and instead of dismissing them as blue Boy Scouts, see that there's a place for that. If you want a world that's less scary, if you want a world where you're not constantly trying to fend off people stabbing you in the back, screwing you over, if you're sick of all this toxicity, the world needs more Superman and less Batman. And this is why I work in superhero archetypes. Ready? Okay. Hopefully some of you enjoyed this video. Help support this channel. Become a monthly patron. Patreon.com/Leanna K. Or buy a one-time Leanna Care session for someone who can use it but can't afford it because they deal with more than their fair share of assholes. Coffee.com/Leanna K. Thanks for watching. And if you want to be an asshole about this, you have been warned. Thanks for watching.